Assalamu alaikum. So this is Fun with Ruha and we are back with another storybook, Dragon Stew and Other Stories by Nicholas Horsburgh. So this is the title page of this book and the content page. There are many stories in this book and we are going to read this first one, The Wise Little Girl. The Wise Little Girl. In the vast Russian steppe, a dry plain where there are few trees. Many years ago, there was a little village. The villagers bred and trained very fine horses. Every year, during the month of October, people from all over the steppe came to the village to take part in a livestock market. Horses were brought from far and near. Buyers too came from distant places to purchase horses here. It was a famous market and the ideal place to find a good horse. Look at the market. We can see not only the horses but other animals like sheep, goat, and pigs were also brought there. Moving to the next page. From another village some distance away, two brothers, Igor and Ivan, set off for the market. The elder brother Igor was a trader. He was rich. The younger brother Ivan was poor, and he did not have any kind of good job at all. Igor, the rich one, rode a stallion. Stallion is a type of horse. And Ivan, the poor brother, rode a young mare. You can see the mare was quite fat and slow, but Ivan did not mind. At least he did not have to walk all the way. At dusk, the brothers stepped beside an empty hut along the way. They tethered and fed their horses outside. Before eating some of the food they had brought for the journey, they made themselves two comfortable beds out of heaps of straw and settled down for a night. The following morning, great was their surprise when they found three horses, not two outside. You can see in the picture there are three horses. The third horse was not fully grown, but a baby foal. The mare had obviously given birth to it during the night. The foal must have already had some of the mare's milk, for it was now strong enough to stand on its own four thin, shaky legs. And when the brothers saw it for the first time in the early morning sunshine, the foal was standing right next to the stallion. The stallion, thrilled to have this new companion, gave a loud whinny and looked proudly down at the newcomer. Igor studied the fool. He was a businessman after all, and he knew all about the value of a good horse. Since the fool was standing next to his stallion, and neither he nor his brother had seen it before, he would claim it. The fool belongs to me, announced Igor. See how it stands next to my stallion. It is the stallion's fool, and as the stallion is mine, the fool too is mine. I once spluttered and was speechless for a few moments. Then the poor brother began to laugh. Well, 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 exclaimed Ivan. It is surely the first time I have heard of a stallion giving birth to a fool. It has to be my mare. that produced his foal. Never, replied Igor. See how proudly my stallion looks down at the foal, and see how close the foal is standing to the stallion. I tell you, it's mine. The brothers started to quarrel, and they continued arguing all the way into town. They decided to go straight away to settle the matter before a judge at the local courthouse. So they are in the courthouse. When the brothers arrived at the courthouse with their animals, they were surprised to find a great crowd gathered there. They asked a man what was happening, and he informed them that the emperor himself had come to the town. He was in the courthouse that day, was judging all the cases himself. The brothers tethered their horses close by and elbowed their way through the crowd. They joined the queue of people waiting to have their cases heard. Soon they were escorted in front of the emperor and explained their problem. Both brothers claimed that the fool was his. The emperor was no fool. He knew perfectly well that the brother with the mare would be the rightful owner of the fool. He was ready to give his judgment, when very unfortunately, at the very moment, Ivan developed a twitch in his eyes. Every time the emperor glanced towards Ivan, and man's eye twitched. The emperor became greatly annoyed by his action. He decided to teach his peasant, who winked at him in such a familiar way, a good lesson. I have heard both of you speak, declared the emperor. It is impossible to say exactly who is the full rightful master. But like me, ask you four questions. Which brother, whichever brother can answer these questions correctly may keep the fool. I want your answers next week when I return to my palace. Are you agreed? The brothers could do nothing else but agree. They nodded their heads, and Ivan's eye continued to twitch. Well, here are the questions I want you to answer, said the emperor. What is the fastest thing in the world? What is the fattest? What is the softest? And what is the most precious? Now go away and return to my palace in 1 week with your answers. Even before he left the courthouse, Igor began to scratch his head. Ivan's eye continued to twitch. After spending a few days at the livestock sale in the town, the brothers returned to their homes. When Igor got home, he said to himself, I shall have to get some help to solve all those questions, otherwise, I will not get the fool. Igor decided to get the answers from a neighbor, a clever woman. A long time before, he had lent the woman a silver ducat, where the interest with the interest on the loan. She now owed him 3 ducats. Igor asked for the help in exchange for cancelling some of the debt. The woman was no fool. She asked Igor to cancel the whole debt. Igor needed some answers because he could not think of any himself. So sadly, he agreed to the woman's request. Well, said the woman, when Igor had told her the emperor's questions, the fastest thing in the world is my husband's horse. Nothing can beat it. The fattest is our dog. It is the laziest animal too. The softest is the quilt on my bed. I made it from goose feathers. The most precious thing in the world is my 3-month-old nephew. There is not a more handsome child, and I would not exchange him for all the gold in the world. That makes him the most precious, you see. Igor listened to the woman's answers. He scratched his head and looked doubtful. But what could he do? He had no better answers to give. In the meantime, Ivan too had been thinking about the answers to the emperor's questions. He had returned to his humble cottage and to Anna, his 7-year-old daughter. Here is Anna. Ivan's wife had died some years before, so while he had been away, a kind neighbor had looked after her. She was a pretty girl and she was very clever for her age. The poor man told Anna about his trip and about the emperor's question. He was worried he might lose his fool. Anna listened carefully to what her father had to say. Therefore, then after sitting and thinking about the questions for a while, she said, "Tell the emperor that the fastest thing in the world is the cold north wind in winter. The fattest is the soil in our fields, whose crops give life to all living things. The softest is a child's cares. The most precious is honesty." Ivan was most pleased with Anna's answer. A few days later, along with his brother, Ivan set off for the emperor's palace. When the brothers were taken before the emperor, Igor was the first to give his answers. The emperor roared with laughter at Igor's foolish answers. However, when he heard Ivan's answers, the emperor frowned. Ivan's wise replies, especially the one about honesty, made the emperor uneasy. He knew perfectly well that he had been dishonest with the poor brother. He had not been just as fair. The emperor looked around at the faces of his courtiers. He wondered what they might be thinking about him. He became angry and turning to Ivan shouted, "Who gave you these answers?" Ivan told the emperor the truth. This did not make the emperor any happier. He was annoyed with Ivan's clever answers, and also because he remembered that Ivan had winked at him during their last meeting. He said, "You shall be rewarded for having such a wise and clever daughter. You shall be awarded 100 silver ducats. The fool too shall be yours. But, at this point the emperor paused and turned to his courtiers. He winked at them and smiled. "But," continued the emperor, "I want you to come back here in 7 days, bringing your daughter, and since she is so clever, she must appear before me neither naked nor dressed, neither on foot nor on horseback, neither bearing gifts nor empty handed, and if she does this, you will have your reward. If not, you will have your head chopped off for your cheek." The courtiers laughed nervously. They knew that the poor man and his daughter would never be able to do what the emperor had asked. Ivan went home in a gloom. His eyes was his eyes were filled with tears. He too knew that the emperor had asked something impossible. When Ivan got home to told his daughter all that had taken place, Anna listened carefully. Then she calmly said, "Tomorrow, father, go and catch a live hare and partridge. The fool and the 100 silver ducats will be yours. Just leave it to me." I wanted as his daughters asked. He had no idea what she had in mind, but he trusted her. On the day Ivan and his daughter returned to the palace, a large crowd had gathered there. The little girl appeared draped in a fishing net, riding the hare and holding the partridge in her hand. She was neither naked nor dressed, on foot or on horseback. The emperor glared at her. "I said neither bearing gifts nor empty handed," he cried. At these words, the little girl held out the partridge. The emperor reached out to grasp it, but the bird fluttered into the air. The emperor could not help but admire the little girl who had so cleverly passed his test. Is your father very poor? And does he desperately need the fool? Asked the emperor. Yes, your highness, replied Anna. You live on the hares he catches in the rivers and fishes he picks from the trees. Oh ho, cried the emperor in triumph. So you are not so clever after all. However, heard of hares in the river and fish in the trees. And tomorrow heard of a stallion having a fool, replied Anna. The emperor and indeed the whole court burst into laughter. Ivan given his 100 silver ducats, and the fool thanks to the wise little girl. I hope you enjoyed the story. So bye.